interactive. And that's the first word in the title for a reason. Again, you're going to hear me say that again and again, because I want you to come back to me and engage. I know it's really easy to get disconnected, but this is your time. So make the best of this time that we have together. Interactive and detailed review of the new Form I-9. So you don't have to Google the answers. You Google the answers, you're not necessarily going to get the right answer. So we're going to talk about that. And I'm very grateful for Danny, that is my co-panelist on this, and is going to handle the changing of the slides for me so that I can concentrate more on the content. So Danny, let's get the next slide up. Okay, how this workshop is going to help me, you. We're going to cover the key elements of the new Form I-9, Section 1 and Section 2. Master, hopefully, the key points of Section 2. Primarily what I'm going to be talking about or reviewing is the regularly used, but often misused or mistaken documents that are on the list of acceptable documents. Then we're going to actually go through the list of acceptable documents, also the ones that are most commonly used, some of them that you may have never seen pictures of. Then the two new supplements. That's one of the biggest changes on the new Form I-9. And maximize your onboarding process. The whole idea on doing this for you and the next workshop is to give you the tools that you need to save you time and also to stay in compliance. So are you ready to learn with me? Remember that word, interact? Yes, thank you. Okay, next slide. Okay, I also wanted to give you a little bit of an overview as to how I'm going to do this. It's 2 hours. And I know that I cannot stay focused for 2 hours. I need break times. So what we're going to do is we're going to cover in the first portion of time, we're going to be covering the new Form I-9 sections 1 and 2, and we're going to collaborate on the list of acceptable documents. I'm going to give you 5 minutes, and we're going to have a timer counting us down for 5 minutes, where you can take a look at the kind of the work part of the webinar or the workshop, and you'll see how that's going to play out. But again, just know that there's going to be a 5-minute work time there. Then we're going to come back. We're going to look at the updated list of acceptable documents, and now you're going to have a 10-minute break. So that's your time to get up, go to the bathroom, have water, whatever it is, that's yours. Then we're going to come back to me. We're going to take a look at the 2 new supplements, and then we're going to go into maximizing the onboarding and compliance process. Then have some fun quizzes for you, kind of to go over what we have talked about and maybe some other things, just so that you can get a feel as to where you are on this knowledge and what is to come for the next workshop. Then we're going to give you the bonus, which I think is really cool too. And we're going to give you a sneak peek as to what next workshop is going to, some of the things that we're going to cover there. How does that sound? Give me a thumbs up. Give me a yes. Awesome. Okay. I appreciate it. All right. So stay with me until the end. At the end, and you saw it on the timeline, we're going to put the bonus, and Danny is either going to put it on the chat or she's going to email it to you, something like that. But it's valuable answers to frequently asked questions. We have 4 answers, 4 questions that I get, and the 4 answers to those, and they're good value for you. Next. All right. I've mentioned this before, but I'm mentioning it again. Turn off all distractions. Stay with me here. Next. All right. This one, if you have a drum, go for it, because I think it's awesome. How many of you are annoyed at having to put NA on all the little areas of the Form I-9 that there's nothing to put in there? Yeah, Yes. Okay. Well, probably one of the biggest benefits of the new I-9 form is that you will be able to leave blank any spaces that don't require any content. No longer NA. If it does not apply, you leave it blank. Yay. I think this is awesome. I don't know why they can't proactively put that rule into place now, but it's coming. So that's the biggest news that I have for you right now. All right, next. So these are other things that actually for some HR professionals, to me, going to a one-page form was like, really? But many of the HR professionals that I've talked to really like to have one-page form because they don't have to worry about what happened to the second form. They like it to have it in one place. So here it is, one-page form for you. Now, what happens is, for those of you that may have not seen the form, is that section 1 and section 2 are going to be in that one page. And then there's 2 new supplements that are going to take care of the preparer and translator piece, and the supplement B, the rehire and verification. We're going to go through all of that. And the instructions are going from 15 pages to 7 pages. So for those of you that like this changes, I think this is kind of the highlight as to what we're going into. Okay, next. All right. Part of the reason we are doing this for you, quite often I know that not just you, HR professionals, us, you feel you're tired, you're trying to keep all those balls in the air, lots going on. Next slide. Fresh and stressed out, despite sometimes the tools that are designed to help you. How many of you feel that the tools are not necessarily as helpful as they're intended to be? And then the next one, distracted. You have a lot of things in your plate, many priorities, and it's hard to stay focused and get your work done. So my goal is to take some of that out of your life. And next slide, that by the time, the time that we spend together in this workshop is so that we can collaborate. Many times you're working out on your own. You don't have a lot of peers that you can go to for support and answer questions. So collaborate, support, learn, while hopefully having some fun. I want to make this engaging and fun for you. Sound good? Let me know on the chat. And Danny, let's go to the next slide. Yes, thank you. All right. Some of you know me because some of you are our clients, and I love you all. Thank you for being here. Some of you, this may be the first time you hear about me or see me. I'm a corporate immigration attorney and compliance. I've been practicing immigration law for 20 years. Oh my God, it's like where did the last 20 years went? I have a few other interests besides practicing law. Well, I'm a 2-time immigrant. That's part of my passion for what we do. I'm an endurance athlete, and I'm also a Dancing with the Stars competitor, and that has been kind of fun. As a fundraiser, but really fun. And the passion goes to the point that I actually took almost a year while I was practicing to write a book about immigration beyond the H-1B than some of our clients have. So that's kind of the passion and the energy that I bring to this is because of my background, and also because of the team that we have with us. And Danny, the next slide. I am grateful to have this amazing ladies, yay, that are my support. I bounce ideas off them, and Danny, which is helping me here with the PowerPoint. I believe Priscilla is, I see her name. She's also in here, and Ellen and Tyra, they're all amazing and bring a lot to the team. And that's what we can provide, the level of the service that we provide to you all. Okay, next. Okay, want to make sure, because we're going to cover a lot of things, every case is unique. And the information that I'm going to give you here is certainly not substitute for a one particular case that may have a particular, specific fact patterns. So it's not legal advice, but it's obviously intended to give you the general perspective, where you should be looking at, how you should be thinking. So next. All right, so this is my first one of these. You're going to see a few of them. I want to make sure that you're back here, not distracted. So give me thumbs up, give me yeses, give me I'm here on the chat. Come back to me because we're going into awesome here. Fabulous. We're going more into the content of the presentation. So let's do this. All right, next slide. Okay, understanding the key elements. Thank you. Understanding the key elements of the new Form I-9, sections 1 and 2. So let's look at the first, the top. So next slide. This is what the new form, and you're going to be seeing a lot of red because the obviously, as you probably know, the actual form has not been released. What we have is the latest version. This is the second revised version that we're looking at, and it's expected to be pretty close to what the final version is going to be. And we're going to show you, various slides like this. So you're going to see the red, and those are the changes to the current form. So here, and the reason why I want you to pay attention to this red is because the reason this change are being made is because you can start seeing where they're thinking. What is the government paying attention to? Employers must ensure the form, blah, 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 are available to employees when completing this form. Failing to comply with the requirements for completing the form, see below the instructions. So employers are liable for. All employees can choose with acceptable document to present, blah, 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 blah. So again, this is, as you look at the form and as you look at the slides, these are the things that we have to pay more attention to. All right, next slide. Okay, this is what the new proposed section would look like. To some degree, the top is fairly similar to what you have right now, except for the if any, those are new. The attestations on the penalty of perjury that you can see there on the certification section. The government is using the Form I-9s beyond just the purpose of the form, which is just to verify the identity and work authorization of the worker. They are using it for litigation purposes against companies or against employers and employees. So they're making sure that when you're signing, you're attesting under penalty of perjury, da, 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 da. So that's important. Then the other bigger change with this section is the citizenship and immigration status. As you can see, there's a lot of red in there. How many of you know what a Form I-94 is? If you had to, because you're looking at this section 1 kind of in general, getting an idea, okay, good. Getting an idea as to, did they fill out correctly? And some things you're not going to know exactly, but some things you need to have at least an idea. And I'll give you some examples of that. So I got a yes for Form I-94 admission number. Anybody else? Any other yeses? You all know what that is. Come back to me. Oh, okay. So I was saying, and please let me know if you don't hear me because, yeah, I want to make sure that you do. Okay. So I was saying one of the bigger changes to section 1 has been this section where the worker certifies their immigration or citizenship status. So you can see all the reds in there. Obviously, a U.S. citizen is a U.S. citizen, a non-national of the United States. The instructions, I have rarely seen that one, so I don't typically touch it. But a lawful resident, we're gonna talk about that, and then a non-citizen. And this non-citizen can take so many shapes. That is what I'm going to be focusing on the next slides, and I will answer the question as to the Form I-94. In fact, I'm going to give you an example of what that would look like when you look at it, or when someone gives it to you as a document. Okay, so next slide. Okay, again, I put this slide here because I'm just reinforcing what the attestations are, what the liabilities are. The red sections, this is, again, they're not changing the Form I-9 just at a whim. So they could have just reapproved what we had, but they're making changes because their expectations on liability and what they're going to be enforcing are going to go based on the changes. So next. Okay. So this is kind of a snapshot of that section that talks about citizenship or immigration status. Again, citizenship of the United States is a citizenship of the United States. Although, and I had that as, at the end of the day, I had to, when I reviewed the whole presentation, I had to take some slides out because I had too many. So one of the slides I took out was an example of a case. I mean, I quite often get I-9s from clients and non-clients that say, hey, I found this. What do you think? What should I do? I don't know what to do. This particular one, the worker had checked in section 1 that he was a U.S. citizen of the United States, but in section 2, he had provided the employer with an employment authorization document, and the employer accepted the employment authorization document as the valid document. Do you see a problem with that? Yes, a problem. Right. Okay. And those are some of the things that obviously in this case, they didn't pick that up. The reason it came to me because they were doing an audit, an internal audit, and the person that was doing that audit knew more than the person that had signed the I-9. And she was like, this doesn't make sense. What do I do? In fact, and this comes, it's relevant here, and that's part of the reason why I had this slide and then I took it out, is because this was like 5 years ago. The Form I-9 had gone to 2 edits since the form that we were talking about when that form was completed. So what do? Can you go back and, what form do you use to revise the thing? And you typically have to use the form that is the current form when you are re-signing and doing things like that. So just that's a side note. So that's, a U.S. citizen, even though the person can be a U.S., they check that they're a U.S. citizen, don't take for granted that answer. Whatever they put in there, the documents that they give you need to somehow relate. They don't necessarily have to give you a U.S. passport, but if they give you something that does not show that they're a U.S. citizen, you do have a responsibility to inquire further. Okay, so then lawful permanent resident, they need to enter the USCIS or an A number. We're going to talk about that some more. And then a non-citizen, other than 2 or 3, again, this is all from the form, authorized to work. And then this, like I said, this can take a whole variety of scenarios. So that let's go to the next slide. I'm going to start showing you some variations of this. Okay. So this is the lawful permanent resident card. This is what they're looking. This is what it looks like today. Mine, when I received mine, was very different. Actually, right now, they're very pretty when we get them in for our foreign nationals that are getting their green cards. they have extra vibrancy in them. They're really, really nice. But anyway, that's a side note. And we get very excited when we see them too. But the USCIS number, if that's what they're going to put in section 1, that's what it comes from. And that number may be useful to you also for some other things that you may have to complete as in your HR world. So that's where the USCIS number comes from. Then the next slide talks about this variety of a non-citizen. What do you get from a non-citizen? So some non-citizens, and again, this one I don't have to come back to me, but this is really important. I'm going to be touching on this here, and I'm going to be touching on this on a workshop, and I'm going to be touching on this on a course that you're going to hear about later on, because it's impossible to cover this in 2 hours, 4 hours, because there's really so much here. But it's really, really important for you to know for various reasons. One of them, obviously, the liability of not, hiring someone that cannot be authorized to work, but also not hiring someone that could be authorized to work, but just don't know any different because you didn't know that some non-citizens, and this is the piece that I really want you to pay attention to, some non-citizens are authorized to work, and the legalese is incident to status, despite the fact that their employment authorization document has expired or is about to expire, okay? And there is probably, off the top of my head, about 15 categories of EADs where this happens. And again, you're going to hear me talk more about this because, again, you could be declining to hire somebody because you see an employment authorization document that has expired, is about to expire, and you can, one, miss out on a really good worker. You could also be liable for not hiring someone. So a lot of things here. So just remember that. And this is one example that you may see more frequently. I've seen quite a few refugees and asylees, EAD. So this has come up a lot more in the last few years than in the past for me. So refugees, the category code, and so this is important. If you look, and this is another USCIS number. So you see the surname, and again, this is a kind of a sample, but it says a specimen test V, then there's the USCIS number, and then if you go right to the right of that, it says category. Those categories, thank you, Danny, those categories are key, and there's many, many, many of them. But the refugees categories is A03 and the asylees C08, okay? And they are authorized to work despite the fact that their EAD has an expiration date or is about to expire. So they would enter, where it says, if any, they would enter NA in that section of section 1, okay? So this is one example. Let's go to the next sample. So here's another one. Again, some citizens, so the other one were authorized to work based on incident to status. This one's, there is a whole category that are non-citizens that are authorized to work based on automatic extensions of their employment authorization document, despite the fact that their employment authorization documents are expiring, are about to expire, have expired. And this is another category that you may see quite often, C09. That code is for people that have applied for adjustment of status. So they're in the process of getting a green card. That's what an adjustment of status means. And they would have a C09 on their category code, and they have automatic extensions of their employment authorization document. Once they file for an employment authorization document, say like in this case, it hasn't been, they don't have the green card yet because the priority dates are so far out and they're on a wait list for years. they can continue to work based on this automatic extensions. Does that make sense? If you have questions about some of this, you can probably put it in the chat for me, but these are really, again, very important, and I'm going to continue to kind of cover this. But I think this is the last example I have here because there was so much more. Okay. Have I confused you all? Hopefully not. All right, Danny, let's go to the next slide. Okay. So we talked about the I-94 emission number. And this is, again, very, very important. This is one of those that you may see quite often, particularly if you have any foreign workers on your workforce, or you hire them. There's two Form I-94s. One, the one to the right and to the left. The one to the left appears at the bottom of an approval notice. So someone, for example, that is on an H-1B status, when the H-1B status is renewed via USCIS, at the bottom of their approval notice, they get this I-94 card that basically provides their work authorization. So what it says valid from until, those are the dates that they're authorized to work in the United States for a particular employer. Now, if that same person goes outside of the United States and travels abroad because they're traveling abroad for whatever reason, visit family, whatever. When they come back into the United States, they get the one that you see on the right-hand side that says CBP at the bottom. That one is issued by CBP, and that one takes over the one that USCIS gives. So meaning, if for some reason CBP decides to give the person less time that they were entitled to under USCIS, the USCIS admission I-94 is no longer the driving document, it's CBP. So it's very important. It's the 94 from CBP. So it's very, very important for your foreign workers to check their I-94s when they come back to make sure that they're correct. And if they're not, to fix them as soon as possible, because that can shorten the amount of time that they can work for you. If CBP say their passport is expiring and CBP gives them less time, then they're only authorized to work until that time that they are authorized by CBP. So just again, things for you to be aware of. Okay, next slide. Okay, now we're moving into the new proposed section 2. Okay, see all the reds in there. The bigger thing in this section is actually not here. It's on the list of acceptable documents that obviously correspond with this that we're going to cover later on. But a few things that I want to point out to you is at the bottom, because those are the things that you sign. The certification, the boxes have moved around. I think it makes more sense the way it is now. The date of employment, the first day of employment used to be in the middle of the certification somewhere. It was easily missed and very confusing. So now it is all the way on its own to the side. Also, the name, the signature, the date, they just kind of make more sense as to how we typically sign documents. So that is kind of the biggest thing in section 2. And then you see at the bottom where it says for re-verification or rehire, then complete supplement B, and so we'll talk about that. Okay, so let's look at the next slide. And I think in the next slide, again, okay. So this, I put this specifically for you to kind of go over when you are certifying section 2. You're certifying again, I attest on the penalty of perjury that I have examined the documentations presented by the above employee, that the documents appear to be genuine and to relate to the employee, and that to the level of my knowledge, the employee is authorized to work in the United States, okay? So I think it's important for all of you to kind of take this a piece at a time and just kind of see, have I really examined the document? Does it appear genuine? What does that mean? To the level of my knowledge, that employee is authorized to work in the United States. And that's, part of what you're here, hopefully, is to give you more confidence that you can, you are comfortable and confident that when you're signing, you have done the best you can to certify that document, okay? Next slide. Okay, so I kind of covered this already, so I'm going to move on to the next one. So the new order of the certification, the first day of employment is to the side, and then how you have the last name, the signature, the date. Next. Okay. So yay, no NAs. Can you see that? So this is a sample for you of what, what you would be doing under the new Form I-9. This would be your new section 2. We made it larger here so you would see what it would look like. So here you have someone that gives you an employment authorization document as their document of choice. You look at the document, it appears genuine, that relates to the person. And this is how you would complete the new section 2 using an employment authorization document. Doesn't it look nice and clean? All right, the next one. Can you abbreviate like that now? Good question. Okay, let's go back, Danny, for a second. Very good question. So, and I didn't want to go into that. That's another slide that I had that I took out, but you asked, so I'm going to come in here. Our government agencies, as you probably all know, because you deal with many of them, don't necessarily see eye to eye in like the most basic things as abbreviations. So ICE, which is typically the one that does the enforcement, they're the ones that will come and audit you. Actually, ICE would allow you to do EAD. USCIS does not. USCIS wants you to do this employment authorization document, but actually, and Danny made authorize narrow, and you could do USDHS. That one is, both of them agree. Under list B and list C, ICE would allow you to do SSN, Social Security number, SSA, Social Security Administration. They would allow you to do driver's license. DL, USCIS does not. And that's what we're going to show you on the next slide. But this is, so next slide, Danny. So, but for now, obviously you want to do it right. This is from the USCIS instructions. When you look on the instructions and how they want you to complete the Form I-9, this is what they want you to do. Okay, so now we took this one as another one that you do. The M274, that's the handbook for employers. That would come from there, but it also comes from the instructions for the I-9. That's when instructions, the one that goes from it's going from 15 pages to 7, I think now. That's what this comes from. Okay, yeah. And for some of you, so the M274, in fact, I don't have it here. I have it at home. I use that all the time. It's a handbook for employers, and it's being updated, obviously, with all of this again. So that's another very good resource for you all. But again, sometimes you're going to, this says that, this says that, this says that, Google says something else. What do you do? Okay, so I'm trying to give you the balance. And at the end of the day, I think if you were being audited, the least of my concerns right now is this, and more what I see is this not filled out, or I see a list A and a B and a C. I see restricted Social Security cards. I mean, much bigger issues. Like, for example, the example that I gave you about, a U.S. citizen on Section 1 and an EAD in Section 2. Those are the things that we really need to pay attention to. And we're going to cover some of that here and the workshop too. Okay, cool. Let's keep going. Okay. Master Section 2, regularly used but often mistaken acceptable documents. All right, let's go to that. Okay, now this is the time to collaborate. So this is going to be the first time that you get your first 5 minutes. So what I'm going to do, we're going to go, let me look at my things. I think we have 1, 2, 3, we have 4 of these slides for us to collaborate on. So I want you to look at them. This is the first one. The person is giving you a Social Security card. Look at it, and then a driver's license. And we're going to come back to this and talk about, can we accept this? Yes, no. Let's go to the next one, Danny. Okay. Now we have a foreign passport. We have, remember that I-94? You froze. We heard that we're going to come back to this. Oh, no. Please let me know in the chat because I don't see myself frozen. Am I back? Okay. Yes, I'm back. Okay, so it may be, just somebody's computer that, good, okay, cool. All right, thank you. All right. Okay, so we have a foreign passport. We have this I-94 that we talked about before. Now, this is the one that comes with the approval notice. And then we have a visa stamp. And I get this a lot. So think about this documents. Okay, next slide. Okay. And this one can be tricky, but you're going to be seeing this a lot more because of the processing times being so long. So here you hire someone on a permanent resident card. And typically after they get hired, you don't have to re-verify a legal permanent resident. But look at my bonus answers because there's more to that story. And the answer is in the bonus that you're going to get. But say that you have somebody that is a new hire and comes to you with a legal permanent resident card that has expired, but they also give you this piece of this document. So we're going to collaborate on that one. And I think, is that my last one or there might be one more? Let's see, Danny, is there one more? Okay, and this one, okay, yeah, this is the timely one. For some of you, you are going to be hiring, or you have, or hiring, workers that are on an EAD, an employment authorization document, or going to be on an employment authorization document, but they're also going to be entered under the H-1B cap lottery, which begins in a few weeks. Well, March 1st is potential registration opening. And if they get selected under the lottery and they have a current EAD, they're going to have certain benefits. So that's what this slide is about. Okay. So I've given you some things to think about. I know you don't have the slides with you, but I am going to give you about 5 minutes, if nothing else, just to break, have a drink, come back to me. My clock has 2:39. Oh, perfect. All right. Yay, Danny. That's why you're helping me with the slides. So we have a countdown. 5 minutes. We're back. What I want you to do is just kind of review, think what we have talked about, and then let's go back through those slides and see what the answer is as to, can you hire that person? Can you keep them employed? Okay. Counting down, coffee break. No, this is work time. Okay, see you in a few minutes. Okay, start coming back to me. I hope I see everybody back. All right. Yes, thank you. I was afraid. I was like, oh my God, I lost them all. Okay, let me see you on the chat. You're back. Yes. Come on. Thumbs up. I'm back. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Yes. Okay. Proud of you. Okay. Danny, let's go back to that first slide. Trying to think where the first one was, where we started collaborating. Okay, cool. Okay, so here we are. All right, so here I'm going to kind of help you with some of the answers, but we have a social security card, we have a driver's license. What is wrong with the social security card? Is this a social security card that you can take? Yes or no? And if yes, no. Okay. Christine, one with, oh, okay. Interesting. All right. So this is social security card you cannot take. Okay. You cannot take it. You cannot take it for the purposes of employment authorization. You know, this does not authorize someone to work as is written in there. It's valid for work only with DHS authorization. Okay. So, and there's 3 different writings like that on a social security card that restrict the social security card usage for employment authorization. And so if you get a social security card with a restriction like this or similar, you cannot accept it as a supporting document, as an acceptable document. Basically, they would have to provide you either typically it's an employment authorization document that they need to give you if this is what they give you. Okay, so on its own, you could not accept it as an acceptable document. And I don't know if you can see the driver's license, but I'm basically going to give you the answer. We put this driver's license in here, and it's an expired driver's license. Okay, so in these 2 documents, if this is what you're given, you cannot accept either one of them. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, now this one, who can quickly tell me what can you accept and what you cannot accept? What can you accept and what you cannot accept from here? We have a foreign passport. We have an I-94 from USCIS that provides the validity of work. And we have a visa stamp. Which one of those documents can you accept? Oh, anybody? Yes. Yes. Okay, now a 994 on its own is not enough. Okay. And we're going to go through this in a lot more detail in the next section. And I think this is going to help a lot of you. Yeah, so here you can take, you have to take the foreign passport and the I-94. And again, this is going to make more sense in the next section. You cannot take a visa stamp. Okay, a visa stamp and many, I see visa stamps accepted all the time. Although it seems like you could because they have a picture of somebody and, so you have the identity, but it's not. It does not provide work authorization. Okay, visa stamp like this in a passport is only a travel document. Okay, so out of this, you would be able to take the foreign passport and the I-94, and those 2 together are a list A document. And that's a very common pattern and a very common combination of documents for foreign workers, okay? The H-1Bs, TNs, Ls, Os, Ps, that's primarily what they will give you. Okay, next slide. Okay, and this one is our green card holder that very happy to have a green card, which all the benefits that it brings. But there are some green card holders that get what is called a conditional legal permanent residency card. And those are valid for only 2 years. And it's typically because they're married to a US citizen. And after that period of 2 years, they need to go back to USCIS and they need to reprove that they were married in good faith. That process is taking a very long time to adjudicate. So we have people with green cards that are expiring, and in order to accommodate for their humongous delays, USCIS have been issuing this notices of receipt that basically when the person files to remove those conditions from the green card, and now they have to wait 2 years to get their final green card. In the meantime, what do? Because their green card is expired. Once they file for that removal of conditions, the government is issuing this document that is basically a receipt notice that has the notation that that document serves as an extension of the green card until for a certain amount of time. It was a year, then 2 years, but you would have to. So just because a green card has expired, sometimes you have to look further. Okay. All right. Next one. And then this one, again, very timely. For some of you that are going to be going through the H-1B cap season, you're going to have foreign workers that, again, have an employment authorization document that typically expires in June or July, and then they get selected for the lottery, and they have an employment authorization document that has expired. And if they get selected and their H-1B is approved, they cannot begin on H-1B status until October 1st. So what do you do between June and October 1st? Well, there's something called a cap gap. And that what happens is the law allows for an extension of that employment authorization document to cover that gap period, okay? Again, I'm going to cover a lot more of this and further in the course, but for now, this is something for you to remember. Okay, so that's the let's collaborate piece. You're with me still, because we're going to go into the list of acceptable documents, which is big. Okay, yay. Okay, no, past the work time. They got that already. Okay. The list of acceptable documents. Here we go. All right. So you can see reds, a lot of the same stuff. In fact, now that I'm looking at this, I was like, I know it's there somewhere. So if you look in list C at the top, number 1, it's hard to read, but right. Thank you, Danny. So those are the restricted Social Security cards. They're going to have either not valid for employment or valid for work only with INS authorization. That would be a very old one. And the newer ones say valid for work only with DHS authorization. So you cannot accept a Social Security card as a list C document that has any of those notations. Okay. Now, the bigger thing with the list of acceptable documents, well, let me start with a drum roll. The big thing that I think is really good for you is at the bottom, which says acceptable receipts. That it can be very confusing. It has always been confusing. You can never find a rule, and now it's right there for you. So I think that's a plus. The piece that continues to create problems is at the top where it says list of acceptable documents, and it says all documents containing an expiration date must be on expire documents extended by the issuing authority are considered unexpired. Again, that sentence, there's so much that goes under that. And that, again, is something that I'm going to give you a glimpse at, or a sneak peek at now, to make sure that you are aware of that and that you can, especially considering the workforce and the need for workers, that you have a more open opportunity to hire people that you may not have considered before. And the other piece is under number 7. You see all that red and blue. There is at least 10 or 15 documents under the list C that are acceptable, but they're not listed anywhere. Unless you're an immigration attorney, you really wouldn't know. And that's, again, a huge disadvantage to you. And the intent is that they're going to provide more information as to what those documents are. Yes, they're not it's not something that you're going to see every day. It's not a social security card. It's not, but it's still, it can make a difference between you hiring 3 people or not hiring those 3 people. And today in the workforce that we have, that can make a big difference for you. Okay, so let's look at some examples of what does this look like. All right, list of acceptable documents. Okay, so when I'm doing audits and when I'm helping employers, one of the bigger things that I see is confusion as to what is the list A, what's the list C, what is the list D, what am I supposed to be looking at? And actually, Danny was very helpful. I was overthinking this, and I said to her when I was preparing for this, I was like, I'm struggling as to how I'm going to explain this, because in my head is clear, but she was like, Giselle, no. So she helped me put this together. So kudos to you, Danny. List A document. Ask yourself, does this document provide both document or combination of documents? Does it provide both an identity? Does it have a photo of the person? That's basically what you're looking for. And work authorization. The document supports that the employee can legally work. So that's what at least a document would be. So a U.S. passport, for example, obviously has the picture of the person, and someone holding a U.S. passport, it's obviously authorized to work in the United States. Someone with a valid permanent resident card, again, it has a picture, and a permanent resident card, again, provides the ability to work. Where it can get a little bit more confusing is for the foreign nationals, and that's the number 5 that you see in there. So again, employment authorization documents are typically, they contain the photo, that's what they are, employment documents, so it meets the criteria. Where you get into the combination of documents is where you can get into issues. So that's number 5. And then, like I said before, for foreign nationals, you're going to typically be looking at a passport, foreign passport, with an I-94 record. Or in some cases, you're going to look at 3 documents: the passport, the I-94 record, and the Form I-20. Okay, so that's list A. So let's look at what that's going to look like in terms of documents, the actual image of the document. So U.S. passport, permanent residency card, and this actually is an older one. The new ones are greener, is the ones that you saw before. Employment authorization document, and then again, here it is, the foreign passport and the I-94. So these are the most commonly presented list A documents. Okay, actually, and some people also now have a U.S. card, like a U.S. passport card. I've seen some of those, not that many. Typically, U.S. citizens give you the driver's license and social security card. So let's look at the next set of documents. List B. So these documents establish identity. And typically, most of them, all of them, have a photo. They identify the person. You look at the person, you look at the photo, okay? So you're looking at things like a driver's license, an ID card, a student ID, a voter's ID card, okay? And there's more samples of that in the M274, the employer handbook, and also at I-9 Central, okay? Let's look at the next slide. I think we have some pictures. So here is kind of a variety. A driver's license, a voter's ID card, and a student ID card, military ID, Native American tribal documents, all of them, pictures, 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 okay? Only identity. None of these documents would provide work authorization. So let's look at the list of C documents. So these are the documents that in combination with list D provide for employment authorization. Ask yourself, does this document provide the person with, employee authorization, that the employees is authorized to work, basically. And these are your social security card. Yes, I have seen good catch, Catherine. It is there twice. Another slide that I took out, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. There is a whole, I can actually send it to you. There's a whole explanation for that one, but you're not typically going to see it. But yes, it is under it's under BMC. Yeah, good catch. You're paying attention. I have so much more to cover that I'm like that. Like I said, that's another one that I took out. So social security card, certification, certifications of birth issued abroad. You may be seeing some of those too. Again, the I-9 Central has some pictures of it, the certificate. And then again, this number 7, which is employment authorization documents used by DHS that are not mentioned anywhere, but can also serve as list C document. Again, you're not going to see many of those, so that I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but I just want you to be aware that there's more than what is listed in here, which again is not there, but it's changing. At least they're going to give you a place to go look, which is a plus. Okay, so let's take a look at what those documents look like. Okay, so this is the social security card. Again, cannot include any of those notations because that's unrestricted. And now, Catherine, so here is a Native American tribal document. There it is. This one doesn't have a photograph. The one that you could accept for the list B would have a photograph. So because there's various versions of it, that's why they're in 2 places. And so, like I said, I was going to go there, but I decided not to, but you saw it, so good for you. Okay, that is our ABC. Does that help you? Because again, this is one of the things that I see a lot of mistakes being made, accepting documents that you cannot. Awesome. Okay. Anybody else? Yes. Cool. Okay. Kudos, Danny. Does this Social Security? They should be. In fact, we renewed, on a side note, we renewed our passports, my husband and I, oh gosh, during the pandemic. And we got them back, and I went to Mexico City for an AILA, American Immigration Lawyers Conference. I had signed my passport, my husband had not. And so the CBP officer, the immigration officer in Mexico City, when he looked at my husband's passport, he's like, "You need to sign this." So yes, it should be signed. So yeah, not everybody does it. Why is the foreign passport on the I-94 included in list A instead of list B and C? Huh. Because who knows how they decided to do this. I mean, I'm sure there was some interesting rationale for that. It could, let me see. I don't know off the top of my head. But it's interesting. But just know for now, it is, I guess, because No, I wouldn't even go there. I don't know, but it's a combination document for list A. But yeah, I mean, if you look at, so what I like about the way you're looking at it is you're saying, well, okay, the foreign passport has the picture. Yay, it meets the criteria for a list B document. And a 994 has work authorization. So yeah, but whoever was designing this at the time decided it should be a list A document. So that's what we have to work with. But good catch. I love it. I love it when you, I mean, that shows me that you're thinking. And that's how you learn the stuff. So good for you. Okay. All right, next. Yay. Okay. And we're right on time. So 3 o'clock. I can't. Yay. I love it when things are working right. Now, this is your break time. Okay. You do have a 10-minute break. I'm moving right on time. Come back to me in 10 minutes. So this is your time. Catch up on whatever you need to do. 10 minutes. Be back. Okay. See you then. Bye. Okay, friends, I hear that we may have had a little bit too much of a break. We're actually, this is the timer. I saw it used by somebody else on a different presentation. And I was like, oh my God, this is so awesome. We need to try it. And obviously the 5-minute timer worked really well. Apparently the 10-minute timer gave us a little bit more time. So I'm hopeful that all of you are back. So start telling me, are you back in the chat, please? On purpose though, yes. Okay, cool. Awesome. Fabulous. Okay, love it. So come back to me, everybody. Now, kind of on purpose, just because I wasn't sure, sometimes I really lose people, but I'm really glad. Come on, everybody keep telling me you're back, you're back, you're back. The next two things that we're going to talk about are not they're important, but not as important as some of the other stuff that we covered and some of the ones that we're going to cover next. So I put it there on purpose, just in case some people took a little bit longer than the 10 minutes or whatever. So let's see. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to cover it next. So hopefully everybody is back. So these are the two new supplements, okay? This is probably something that unless you've been at a presentation with me or something else that you may not have seen. So let's take a look at what those are. And I think, my own view, this is a good idea. You don't have to, you don't, they're very, very similar to what you're used to seeing, except for the fact that now they're on their own. I rarely see the prepare or translator sections used, at least in the population that, my clients and the population, the companies that we work with. I'm sure there are fields where this is being used all the time, but for your purposes, and it's going to be there, it's going to be available. You do not have to keep it with the Form I-9 if you don't use it. Okay, so that's what the preparer looks like. Let's look at the next one. And now this is section 3. Well, what used to be section 3, the last section, now supplement B, again, its own form. You see a lot more reds in here. Again, a lot of the red is in, emphasizing the certifications, the purpose of the form, and how to fill it out. So which is kind of nice. And now it mentions the 274 employer handbook that we mentioned before, which is nice. It's right there. So there is additional information about how to fill out this section. Now, the employer handbook is not the newer, the one that is going to go with this is not out yet. I haven't seen it. I've seen the instructions of this, which we don't have as part of the presentation, and obviously the forms and the list of acceptable documents. But this is what they're going to look like if you are rehiring or re-verifying, which that I've seen a lot. This is the document that you will be using, or the section of the document that you will be using. Okay, so hopefully I got everybody back and we're back on track. Let's go to the next slide. Okay. Maximize your onboarding process and good faith compliance. So this is important. So pay attention. These are the things that you're going to have to start thinking about. Then in next slide, as you, as you prepare for the form to come. Obviously, it's not out yet. They have not announced it yet. And when it's going to be out, I actually told my staff, like I was sure that they were going to have it out. Like they love to do things like right at the beginning of the year when nobody's paying attention or things like that, but they didn't do it. So who knows? But I know the American Immigration Lawyers Association, the verification committee that I'm very active in, had a meeting with ICE and USCIS in December. mid-December, and they still did not have a date. So we're on the wait. In the meantime, continue to use the form that you're using right now, even though it has expired. Next. The next slides that we're going to talk about is things that you have to start thinking about when you transition, okay? Typically, the government will give us, so say they say January 30th. Okay, here's the latest draft of the form. It becomes effective February 1st. They're going to give you a grace period, which is typically 60 days to transition. So say the form, you can begin using it February 1st, and then your 60 days, maybe February, March. So April 1st is when the cutoff period is. You and your team need to determine when are you going to start using the form. The first day, the middle day, the last day, another day, whatever. So that everybody is in sync. Now, you may be a team of you, so this decision is very easy, but you may be a team of people in various places, and other people that are not even part of the HR team necessarily, they may be managers or other people that are completing these forms, and you all have to start using it at the same time. So that is important. When are you going to move to the new form? And also make sure that everyone has the form, because they're going to grab whatever is convenient or available. They're not here like you are. The new I-9 form is the last thing on many people's minds right now, because if you're a manager and you don't necessarily touch this, except for every so often filling out a form, they're not going to know. Okay, so that's why you're here. Next slide. Okay, other considerations, again, and I kind of touched on this, so I'm going to go through it fairly quickly. Single location, multiple locations, how many people are involved in the process, who is involved, who needs to be trained. You know, you're here, you're learning, but what about that manager in, who knows, Seattle, that has no idea and you don't see them every so often or whatever, and they have no idea that they need to start using a new form or the new requirements of the form or the new list of acceptable documents or whatever it is. Okay, next. Now this one is one that I'm going to provide. Again, I mentioned that we're going to do the workshop, and then I have a course that I'm going to talk about in the workshop that is a follow-up to this. Electronic I-9s obviously are efficient. So many of my employers are asking me, you know, when we're going to transition, what should I look for? And that's a whole big conversation. I have to tell you, that's another slide that I took out, but I want to say if it was 16 million, but a lot of money was paid just last year by a group of companies. Many of them were universities or colleges. They decided to, they have very good IT teams and whatnot, and decided to do their own electronic I-9 software. The software did not match the requirements of the government requirements for many reasons. And when they were audited, basically ICE invalidated all the forms. They got zero credit for any of the I-9s that were created because the electronic system did not comply with the requirements. Imagine that. So the fines were humongous because it was like if you would not have completed an I-9 at all. That's how they took it. So it's very important, if you're looking at an electronic system that is compliant. And I say that kind of because what is compliant is very vague. So again, that's a big conversation. But for the purposes of this presentation, you need to, if you're electronically, you need to make sure that your provider is ready to also transition at the same time that you're ready to transition, that the electronic system, whatever you're using right now, is compliant with the federal regulations for electronic I-9s, and also consider that they're going to have to upgrade whatever system you're using so that it's compliant with the Form I-9. And they don't know what the Form I-9, the final Form I-9 is going to look like today, because we don't know yet. So there may be on a very short timeline to get on board and to get you on board as to what you need to know. So that's a conversation you need to start having with your electronic provider. Then the electronic links, are they going to be ready? Because many of you are sending electronic links to your to the candidates and those that you're onboarding, so that they can have access to the list of documents, they can have access to the instructions. Are those links going to be available? Or the packages, if you're mailing them out, who's going to be updating those? How do you provide the employees access to the instructions? How do you store your I-9s? You may be considering, well, you know what, let's kind of start storing electronically. Those are all considerations that you should be start to thinking about. Okay, next. So here, kind of touching on electronic storage consideration that I just mentioned, because I do get a lot of questions about this. You know, you can right now store in paper, electronic, or a combination. Okay. If you complete it in paper, you can scan it, you can upload the original signed form and retain it electronically and destroy the original paper after you have securely and legally stored it in electronic format. So if you're going to destroy in your original paper, you need to make sure that whatever you're doing, again, it's not going to invalidate that original Form I-9. Another conversation to be had, but something for you to be aware of. Any electronic system you use to generate the Form I-9 or retain the completed Form I-9 must comply with the regulatory guidelines. Next. Okay, actually, these are some of the considerations, because you're probably saying, well, Giselle, you're telling me all of this, well, tell me more. So here is kind of a general overview as the electronic storage and I-9 considerations when you're looking at, and you can take a picture of this and you will get the presentation, but this, you can almost use this as your checklist when you're looking at a storage control system for integrity and accuracy and reliability of the data. Prevent and detect unauthorized or accidental usage. So you have to be able to track who uses it, and you know, if someone is not authorized that enter the data. Quality assurance program with regular and documented system testing, indexing systems so that you can identify records, retrieve records. For some of you, you may have thousands of I-9s. How do you retrieve them in the case of an ICE audit? Able to reproduce legible and readable paper copies if you have to provide them in case of an audit, and the system is fully accessible. Quite often I find that only the HR professionals or the HR team has access. And what if, you know, what if the team of you is not available? You have to have a backup, okay? So again, this is kind of a very general, but a good overview of what you need to be looking at. Next. All right, everybody with me? I keep on, because that was dense. I didn't have a lot of interaction with you there. It was a lot of me talking at you. So, okay, good, awesome. I see there's some thumbs up. Okay, next. I have cats, so I saw this one. I was like, oh, okay. So this is fun. I have to combine the fun with the. This is what I'm going to do with this one. I'm going to do a few with you. We'll see how far we go. It's 3:35. Okay, let's go through the quizzes and see how we do this. Let's go to the first one. I have 10 of them. During the I-9 verification process, is the employer required to make available to the employee the Form I-9, the list of acceptable documents, and the instructions? Yes, no, it depends. Yes, yes. All right, you got this one. I started easy because I figure, otherwise I lose you. Okay, the answer is yes. All right, next then. When signing the Form I-9, I certify that I have reviewed the documents provided by the new employee and that they appear to be genuine and to relate to the employee. Yes, no, it depends. Yes. Awesome. Okay. Yay. Okay. Next. Is an expire authorization document an acceptable List A document for Form I-9? Yes. Okay. Yes. It depends. That's the answer. Okay. For the reasons that we talked about. It could be that you cannot accept it. Okay. So don't take believe me, this can be, I don't want you to leave here thinking that every expire employment authorization document is okay, because that is not correct. Okay, so that's why the answer is not a yes, it's not a no, it depends. There is a very specific process or checks that you have to go through to determine whether an expire authorization document or expiring you can accept. Okay. And the code on that EAD has a lot to do with it. That's one of the main things that you have to look at. So you have to look at the code. You have to look at, have they filed for an extension of that document and when? And then the document that they're extending, the code for that one and the code for the one that you have are the same. So that's one of the situations. And that's in the case of an automatic extension. And then, of course, we have what we talked about. We have the asylees and we have the refugees. And there's others that are incident to status, where basically it's kind of indefinite as long as they're complying with the requirements of their status. Okay. So a lot of it. So it got a little bit more complicated here. Okay. Let's see what 4 brings. Okay. Can employers ask job applicants, are you legally authorized to work in the United States? And will you now or in the future require a sponsorship for an employment visa status, such as an H-1B? Yes. Okay. The answer to this is yes. And I quite often get, well, I want to ask more. I want to ask this. I want to ask the other. There hasn't been, and this is an ongoing fight, I will say, with the government and immigration lawyers and SHRM, because this is sometimes not enough, and they tell you yes, but it's a no, and all of this. And at that ALA verification committee meeting that I told you in December, this issue came back up. We asked them again, is there any flexibility on this? And, particularly the case of the students, sometimes they think that they don't need a sponsorship because they have an employment authorization document. But in reality, many of them do need a sponsorship because the employment authorization document will end at some point, and it can get tricky. But the government is pretty rigid on this one. There is a little bit of more flexibility, and I will cover that in the course, but not significant. But for most of you, this is what you're going to be able to use. Now, if they say, yes, I will need a sponsorship, and hopefully they will if they really do need a sponsorship, because then it's fair to you and it's fair to them, because you can work with your immigration lawyer and you can have a bigger conversation that allows you to facilitate their transfer or their hiring, if that's what you're going to do. And it also helps us help you do the process better. It goes a long way if they're honest, but sometimes that doesn't happen. But I do want you to know, if they say yes, that opens the door for you to ask more questions and to ask for documents. And you should, because you need to know more. Okay. All right. 5. I can use any electronic I-9 system that allows me to onboard employees quickly. Yes or no? Okay, I touched on this a lot, so hopefully you got the answer. Not every HR, and not every system out there is as good as they claim to be. And by the way, DHS, which is one of the things that you sometimes see them advertise, oh, this has been certified by blah, blah, blah. We wish they would, but they have not. They haven't certified anything. So there's no program out there that can actually truly say, I have a stamp from DHS. They haven't done it. The best that can have happened is that the employer that used their system has been audited and they passed the audit fine. And that they're using kind of that as a certification in a way. Okay. All right. Next, 6. To correct an error in section 2, you should draw a single line through the incorrect info, enter the correct info, and add your initials and date next to the new information. Yes, no, it depends. Yes. Okay, cool. All right. I haven't seen many errors on this, but oh my gosh, when I started doing this, I was seeing like whiteouts and also I also see like stuff that just doesn't look pretty. Impressions matter. So if you're going to correct, try to do it cleanly. 7. Let's go to the next one, Danny. When conducting an internal I-9 audit and prioritizing corrections, it should not be a high priority to complete missing I-9s. What do you all think? Yes, no, it depends. This one can be tricky. I'm going to read it again. When conducting an internal I-9 audit and prioritizing corrections. So you find when you're doing your audit that you have I-9s that are missing. They have not been done. When you cannot fix it all at the same time. And I find this as an issue whenever I'm doing audits, that there's a lot of things that need to be fixed. So how do you determine what is a priority? Is completing a missing I-9 high on the priority list? And the answer I have to say is yes. Okay, it is yes. The reason why it's yes is because this has one of the highest fines. What the government takes from a missing I-9, the way they look at it is you knowingly hire an unauthorized worker. So when I am doing, again, helping employers with the I-9 process, and I tell them, print your payroll and make sure, that's how we start almost. Print your payroll and make sure that there is an I-9 for every person on payroll. If there is not, that is like high on the priority list. That person, so the question says not be a high priority. Okay, I'm sorry. So it should not be high on the priority list. So prioritizing corrections, it should not be high. It should not be a high priority to complete missing I-9s. So basically what I'm saying, so sorry if this is not clear. So that's why I'm kind of really, because a lot of you said no, and I'm like, let me make sure that we're all on the same page here. When conducting an internal audit and prioritizing corrections, oh, I'm getting some sort of an alert here on my computer. It should, oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, so it should not be a high priority to complete missing I-9s. And I'm saying, yeah, the answer should be, it should be a high priority. So I'm going to redo this. I'm going to redo this quiz to make it easier, but it is a high priority. So does that make sense? And it makes sense as to why. I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. Yes, okay, cool. Because this is very important. I put it here for a reason. Okay, next. Okay. It's easier. I know the negative. Yes, that is correct. I got a little bit too complicated for you. Sorry. And I hate those kind of questions because the double negative, I don't like them either. They're confusing. Sorry. Okay. The new Form I-9 has 2 new supplements that I should keep with the completed I-9 for a new employee, even if not used. Yes or no? Okay, we covered this one. I know I got you all confused with the last one. This one should be, no, if it is not used, awesome. Okay, whew, you're back to me. Good. Okay, fabulous. Okay, 9. There are acceptable List B documents that are not listed on the list of acceptable documents, and you must do, or I must do, additional work before declining some documents. Yes, awesome. Okay, yay! Except for my double negative, we're doing good. Okay, 10. Regular immigration compliance and I-9 training will provide you with the up-to-date knowledge that I need to be more confident in my role. And that should be a I want to see all those yeses and sparkles. All right, it's a yes. Okay, next. Oh no. So, okay, I'm going to skip this 5-minute break because it was work time. I was going to do, so come back to me. We're back here. And I think you're all there. So it's awesome. I was going to run through those and did what I did with the other ones, but I don't have enough time. And so we did it together. All right, let's go to the next one. Okay, on a scale 1 to 10, 10 being more confident, 1 totally confused. How are you feeling now about your level of I-9 knowledge versus when you began today with me? Yay! Okay. Awesome. Okay. Cool. Awesome. I love it. Okay. Yay. Fabulous. Well, the work continues. So next. Okay. So we're going to give you that list, that bonus. I don't know, Danny, how are we going to do this? You can unmute and tell us. If you can. Oh, I don't know. You will get a bonus. We'll figure it out. The bonus will be email. Okay, there we go. So the bonus will be emailed to you. I said there's, it should be another good resource for you. Okay, next. So thank you. That bonus only goes to you that you were here live. So thank you for doing that. All right, what is next? You're probably wondering, why am I signing up for 2 workshops? And they complement each other, and there is a lot here. So this is what we're going to cover on Thursday. We're going to be seeing each other pretty soon. Explore the I-9 onboarding challenges and how to overcome them. Again, the whole point here is helping you do your job better with less stress, saving you time. Learn best practices for verification of remote workers. And that is another area that I see a lot of confusion about. Some people think that this virtual verification is forever. It's not. And so we're going to touch on that. And we're also going to prepare for an exciting future. I think there's good vibe in the universe. Something that at USCIS and DHS had said forever it was never going to happen. It may happen. So the second workshop is on Thursday, same time. You should all have received a link, but if you don't, we're going to resend the link. But it's Thursday, 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 2 to 4, very similar to what we're doing right now. So prepare for the exciting future of virtual verification. There are some things that you need to start doing right now to take advantage of that. So we're going to talk about it. Position yourself to be in compliance and avoid fines. So this is the sneak peek of what we're going to talk about. I have some of the slides that we're going to cover very quickly. So let's take a sneak peek at what we're going to talk about. Again, employment authorization documents, you've heard me mention this. We're going to talk about it some more because, again, I could be talking about this on a whole day seminar. So I'm going to continue to sprinkle things in there so you get, more solid information about this. Next one, E-Verify. I have not touched E-Verify today, but it's an important piece of this puzzle. How does it fit in? Many of you are using E-Verify, if not, okay. I'm going to touch on it, but it is very important. It's really very important also for the future of where I-9 compliance is going. So I think it's important to talk about it. And then the next is, let's see, what else are we going to talk about? Mistakes. And here's another reason why I'm bringing in E-Verify, which is not I-9, necessarily. It's not the new form I-9, but again, it is important into the future. There was another company, one company with only 50 employees, all U.S. workers, so there's no foreign nationals. Sometimes people think, oh, well, I don't hire any foreign nationals, I don't have to worry about this. Well, no, 2.6 million in fine because of I-9 violations. And I'll touch on this some more, but one of the reasons of that, the humongous amount, they had many TNCs, so tentative non-confirmations from E-Verify that were not touched. They just, for whatever reason, they just did not pay attention to the tentative non-confirmations, didn't do anything about it. And ICE took that as you knowingly hired an unauthorized worker. Okay, so remember when we were talking about the double negative on the I-9, it's almost like you didn't do an I-9 or you didn't do anything with the E-Verify TNC because you knowingly were hiring this person. So that gets the highest fines. Okay, so we need to pay attention to those TNCs for now and for the future. Also, they had not audited the I-9s, and they only had 3 days to produce the I-9s. So they were not able to produce what they had, many things. So it led to a lot of problems, a lot of fines, and I want to help you avoid those. Okay, so that's part of the next workshop. Next, Danny. Okay, give me a yes if you will be here with me on Thursday. Awesome. Fabulous. Okay, I know you're all really busy, so I appreciate your time. I so appreciate the fact that you're engaging with me and taking the time. But I hope, again, my hope, this 2 hours and the next 2 hours next week on Thursday are going to save you a lot of time, hopefully, and headaches. So come back to me next week. Next Thursday. Don't let me confuse you, please. I think I have one more. There's probably a thank you slide. Oh, no. Actually, this is another good one. Don't go away yet. I have 4 minutes. Those who get the most out of my programs always are those who ask questions. And I know, I kind of glanced at the chat. So this, you can scan that QR code, and actually Danny just put the link on the chat. Send us questions, as you review what we have covered, which is a lot, or things that you have going on. Please send us those questions, as best as you can describe them. Again, I cannot tell you the answer for a particular case because I don't have, if you work with me, you know that the first thing that I do is send me the documents because that tells me the story. And I'm not going to be able to do that here. But if you have a general question that we could answer and I can incorporate that answer on the next workshop or something like that, I will. So this is your opportunity to actually get more out of this, okay? So that's what this is. Awesome. And then I think the last slide is thank you. So, and I am so proud of all of us because we are on time. Actually, those 5 minutes or the 5 minutes that we had on the timer that we kind of, so nice. Thank you again very, very much for all of you for being here. Send us your questions, take this all in. And somebody I think asked also, you will get the recordings of this so that, you know, you'll get all of this later on. And come back on Thursday also, we will give you the certificates. So some of you that are, you need your SHRM certificates and whatnot. Actually, I have to give kudos to SHRM Jax, who has been my partner in this. Natasha has been phenomenal. And she got credits for us, for you, for this presentations on this workshops. Yay, I know. And also, by the way, what you're paying to be here, we're also collaborating. So it's a share partnership with them. They're also going to get, you know, it's a collaboration effort. Natasha is amazing. So your certificates, we will give that to you on the next workshop. And that's it. That's it for now. Okay. Thank you so much. I'll see you Thursday. Bye-bye.